Here she is, my lovely new friend, Caitriona Balfe. How are you doing generally? How are you finding the kind of enforced downtime at all? Because I imagine the last number of years has been pretty intense.
Yeah, it's been up and down. I'm not gonna
Yeah, okay.
lie. I am, I definitely, I'm the type of person that vacillates between being very social and needing a lot of people and then needing my own very quiet and, hibernating downtime. But
Yeah.
I love having that sort of flux between the two. And that's why I love filming so much, because you're on set and there's just so many people, and then
Surrounded.
surrounded, and it's like so social. And like the best thing every morning is like when you walk onto set and you get to say, it's like you're saying hello to like 50, 60 people, and everyone, and we've all worked together for so long, so it's really special. But then especially with this show, we stay away a lot. So I get like a couple of nights away by myself in hotels, and like, I love that. I just love that kind of like,
Early bath, room service.
yeah, don't have to say a word, see anybody. And so, me and my husband, it was quite strange because, we've been together 6 years, but we've never spent this much time together. And so
Yeah.
part of that was amazing. And then part of it was like, why are you still here? What are you doing?
And I think that's more pronounced for you, obviously, in your job because you're used to stints away.
Yeah.
But like, I have so many friends with quote unquote normal jobs who are not used to seeing their spouses this much.
Well, I don't think
And
anybody is.
like, it's not even if you really love them, they're still annoying. Like,
Yeah.
that level of interaction on both sides is not natural, really.
No, and it was quite funny. We ended up getting into this routine where, like, he's amazing. He'll make me coffee every morning. I'm so not a morning person, but like I need my coffee and my space. But we have a upstairs and downstairs, so literally like from when we wake up till like midday, I would sort of take the downstairs and he would be upstairs, and then we would sort of flip for another couple of hours,
Right.
and then we'd come together in the evening. But yeah, I think everyone needs their little corner to sort of do their thing
Yeah.
in.
So like lots of reading, did you kind of take it as an extended holiday, or were you trying to make yourself, work on something?
Yeah, well, I definitely did a lot of reading more for fun, because there's a lot of, a lot of the time now, you're sort of being sent stuff and it's like, oh, this could be a cool project to try and get the rights to, or this could be something. And so you end up reading a lot of material that sort of has a protagonist who is a woman in her 30s.
Yeah, you're like,
And yeah, and it was nice to sort of branch out. And I started this book club online, which that was one of the most amazing things about this as well, because it was sort of, it's very ad hoc, and I am so like in admiration of people who are able to do these things and be like really organized and professional about it. But people have been very understanding. But it was just really cool to have a little bit of something that you're doing in a community that has a goal, and that you get to then share some time with people. And it's just, I think that kind of sense of community was really nice.
And accountability as well, isn't it? It's like, I mean, I start loads of books and I'm like, oh, there's a new shiny one, I'm going to start that. And it's the finishing of the things. So favourite book that you read during this period?
On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. I think it's hard to beat that one. It's an American Vietnamese writer called Ocean Vuong. And it's really heartbreaking. Everyone was like, yeah, you're doing a book club. And then I choose like all these really depressing, like, really like not very fun books. And they were like, can we maybe lighten it up a bit?
But do you find that that's quite an Irish thing? I remember for a long time being asked, if I was in interviews, it's like, what's your favourite book? Emer McBride's A Girl is a Half-Formed Thing.
Which is gorgeous.
I read it it's amazing.
Gorgeous book.
I wept.
Yeah.
I would be in the car. I remember we were in France and Roy was just looking at me going, are you okay? We're on holidays. We're Judy Bloom or something a bit escapist. But I love the cathartic.
And I think, you know, as Celtic people, we do, I think we're just naturally drawn to the sort of dark and morbid, but find a beauty in that. Whatever is wrong with us, but that's sort of, you know, and I think that's kind of the material I'm always drawn to. You know, I like to get into the nitty gritty of I don't know, of what makes life painful but beautiful at the same time, you know.
What are you thankful for today?
Oh, today, I mean, it was, you know, I am very thankful to be home, and and I think, you know, you obviously know I had to say goodbye to my lovely little cat yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful that I had 17 years with this awesome little being. She was hilarious. She was a total diva. And she was just so special. And, you know, she traveled around the world. She was totally cool. You know, obviously I travel a lot. So she had lots of surrogate moms, dads, and she just rolled with it. You know, she was always just such a cool little special being. So that's what I'm grateful for today.
Where did you get her?
So I got her in a deli in Brooklyn. When I was living in Williamsburg, I wanted to get a cat. I tried to go the normal route and went to one of these pet stores, and because I was foreign, they were like, "You're not allowed one because you might move and leave her," and as if you would leave a cat if you moved. And so there was a deli on the corner, and there was this lady who would always be on our street. And I was walking home, I think it was like a day or two later, and she just called out to me. She was like, lady, you want a kitty? And I was kind of like, well, actually, I do want a kitty. I'm not sure I'm going to take one from your coat right now. Yeah. But so I went she was like, you know, go into the deli, and the cat there had kittens. So I went in, and sure enough, went to the back room, and they had all these kittens there. And I picked up one that was kind of white and grey, and then the matching one sat on my foot. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not getting one kitty, I'm getting two. And that was Patsy and Eddie, my little ab fab gang. And
amazing.
Yeah, and Patsy, he had a heart condition, so he passed away about 8-9 years ago. And Eddie just,
17.
So 17.
I often, well, always when I remember, send the questions over so that sometimes you can have a little look. You have been so conscientious thinking about them. And I'm actually just looking at this because obviously you sent them earlier in the week.
Yeah.
And you said, today I'm thankful that I'm heading home for the first time in 3 months. I'm very excited to finally see my cat.
I know. Oh.
How long had you been apart?
This time it was 3 months. I mean, she has been quite ill of late. And I mean, you know, it's quite funny. Like we had taken her to, there's a really amazing University of Glasgow veterinary hospital quite close to us. So we'd taken her there in March when I got back. Okay. And she saw the neurologist. And so they discovered
she's a showbiz cat.
She is a showbiz cat. And there was an amazing vet there, and they did a bunch of tests, and so it turned out that she had Alzheimer's, and which I didn't know cats could have, but she was also getting little mini seizures. But it was quite funny when she was in there because she was having these tremors in one of her legs, and the vet came out, and he was like this really lovely man, but he was like, you know, we've never seen this before in a cat. I mean, because this is the other thing. Anyone who has a cat will know when you bring your cat to the vet, all they do 9 times out of 10 is like, well, you know, in dogs, if we could see this, you know, dogs will tell us they're in pain a lot more. Or when we see this in dogs, this means, but with a cat, we don't really know. Or with a cat, we can't give it any medication. Or with a cat. So cats seem to be like this really understudied or understood species in comparison to dogs and what they know about how to do things with dogs. But so the vet came out and he was like, we've never seen this tremor before in cats. We've seen it in humans or in dogs. So, I'm not saying we've discovered America, but this is really exciting. It's kind of like, but is she
like,
going
"For
to be
you."
okay? So, so yeah, so she's been up and down, but she had a bad seizure yesterday morning. So it was just, I think there's always a line where you have to go, is her quality of life going to be any better for any more intervention? And so I didn't think it would be. So
Yeah. But nice that you got to see her.
yes, very much so.
So what is the thank fuck for this?
I think it's my job. I know it's my job. It took me a long time to sort of get to do what I love and always wanted to do. I mean, I've wanted to be an actor since I was 3 or 4 that I can remember. And it took me a really long time to get there, and it was a very circuitous way that I took, but it's so good to be doing something that you love, and it has brought me so much happiness since I finally figured things out. And I'm just so grateful that I get to do that.
And so you say that you knew from earlier on. Were you like, the stereotypical putting on little shows, or you just had a clarity that you were like, saw someone on TV and were like, that's my gig?
I knew from really young. I used to do impressions. Like I used to do a Margaret Thatcher impression. I don't know why.
Go on. Do you still do it?
I don't know. It was something. It was like, we are here today to talk. I don't know. It's like, but when I was like 5, I used to do that, which was very odd.
Adorable.
Also from a girl from Monaghan, why I was running around doing Margaret Thatcher's very odd.
But you know that the family loved that.
And so I also grew up in the middle of nowhere, and there wasn't a huge amount of stuff going on, but there was this small youth theatre. And I was part of that. And so I think I started there when I was about 7. And that was like, oh yeah, I want to do this, Yeah. So.
And then did you continue that in school? Because I always think, a lot of people would go, oh, I was in the, my secondary school play. I played Peggy from, what was that shit? Playboy of the Western World. And you're like, that's when I knew.
Well, we didn't have a huge amount of that in my school, but we did do 2 plays. And one was Diary of Anne Frank, and I played Anne. And then the other one was I can't remember, I was playing an old lady. I don't even know what it was. But we didn't have a huge amount of that. But I was in there was a theatre group in Monaghan. And we did pantos. So I did a few pantos.
Did you? Oh my God, I want to unearth those. So what character did you play in panto?
So bad. Well, one year I was Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk. Amazing. And then I only remember 2, but I feel like there must have been more. And the other one was Beauty and the Beast. And I remember myself and Deirdre were the candlestick and teapot. I think I was a candlestick. So yeah, terrible.
I love that. But committed.
Yeah. I'm going to go with yeah.
Sure.
But I think it was literally, I tried to do whatever was available. Monaghan back then, we didn't have a huge amount of stuff going on. It was the border towns and...
Yeah. Different time.
It was a different time. But I think the thing that it definitely showed me was that any chance to sort of do something in that realm, I loved it, and it was fun, and I loved the whole kind of camaraderie of the kind of team and all the group of actors, and we used to make the sets as well, and I loved all that.
did you study that then in college?
So then I went to DIT. I went there right out of school, and then towards the end of my first year there, I got scouted, packing bags in the Swan Shopping Centre for MS.
Swan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then so I started modeling sort of part-time, and then did full-time that summer, and then I got offered to go to Paris, and so second year drama school sort of didn't get to compete with going to Paris.
But I imagine if you'd been scouted and then you're off to Paris, you're earning quite a bit of money. Second year, yeah, no, okay. Okay. Oh, okay. I always immediately I just think, oh, you're in Paris. You're like big time.
No, I mean in the beginning, I would actually come home to Dublin to do some terrible Irish modelling jobs to sort of make enough money to go back and try
to break through in Paris.
I mean, when I first went to Paris, it was like the height of all the Brazilians.
Okay.
And I obviously am not. I'm like very pale.
So it was like Giselle
Giselle
time.
And all of those girls.
Yeah.
Carolini and all of, and so, and they also, like, when I first got there, they dyed my hair red, and you know, I just was not sort of part of that crew. And
so what, were they trying to make you more Irish? What was the red hair thing?
Yeah.
Okay, probably. They were like, let's embrace this.
There's so many different aspects of it, because you're supposed to just automatically be this like fun, interesting, like edgy person that like fashion people want to be around. But then at the same time, you have to be so skinny and so androgynous, and you know, it's just, you were constantly, there was always people doing better and constantly just being compared to people, I guess. And I think as a young woman in your teens and 20s, that's really, really hard, you know, because it's
hard enough.
It's hard enough anyway. And, you know, there's so many times where you would go into castings or even fittings for jobs that you already supposedly had, and somebody in the room would just be annihilating how you look or your lack of personality, or you talk too much, or all in front of you. And it's tough. It's really tough, you know. And I have so much admiration for girls who can like come through that unscathed, because it's.
Do you think that's possible?
Knowing all of my friends who've come through it, I think it's possible after some healing. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I'm very lucky. I still have quite a few really, really close friends who I met during that time. And, you know, I think everybody goes through a really wobbly phase afterwards, trying to sort of find their footing or find what their next step is, because in one way it opens up so many doors, and it does open your mind to so many things, and it does give you an incredible education in a certain way, but in another way it infantilizes you and it stunts you in so many other ways. And I think, you know, it takes a while to sort of like rebalance all of that.
I mean, there's been talk recently, and I've seen a lot of people on Instagram, I think it was after Emily Ratajkowski, I always say it wrong, and so she talked about you know, ownership of particular images. But I saw people that I know who were models in the industry for a very long time, and who kind of talked about not knowing one person, themselves included, who kind of went through that without being at one point in like a pretty questionable position. And as you say, you're kind of a teen, you're in Paris for the first time, you're like thrown out there to go and do a test shoot with God knows who in God knows where. And, you know, it's expected that you turn up with a smile, and you should be glad that he's even bothering to take his camera out for you.
And you're supposed to be cool. You know, this is the word. And I think, you know, Emily talked about that in her essay, where there's such a veneer of like, oh, everyone's so cool in this industry, and like, you know, we're all just hanging out and it's all, you know. And so that's sort of like drilled into you from quite a young age about, you know, don't rock the boat, don't be uncool.
Being uncool is defending yourself or questioning something or being stiff and not...
Stiff or not taking your top off. Why wouldn't you take your top off? It's just tits. Come on. Like,
just be cool.
Like, I can't tell you how many times that sort of situation happened. And, you know, I think it's... And you're also, you know, and I think I was very lucky. I had some amazing bookers and had some amazing agencies, but I also had some absolute shit agencies. And they are not, you know, they've been put in this, or they've positioned themselves, I think, as, you know, they protect the girls. But because they've made themselves management companies, they also take zero responsibility. So all the girls are self-employed. And in effect, they employ the agents. And so it's such a weird balance of power, because the people that you are supposedly employing are the people who are the gateway to all the jobs. And they definitely
dictate your earning power.
Well, but they also dictate everything, you know. And it's like, the worst thing, I think, if you talk to any model, used to be the days you would have to go into the agency and you walk in and literally everybody is scanning you head to toe. What are you wearing? Do you look cool? Are you thin enough? Are you, you know, going to the right places or dating the right kind of person? And it's just, Anyway.
So you're a commodity. You're a commodity.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah. But it was also,
and
parts of it were good. I don't want to just...
Okay, and I imagine... you know, I mean, maybe it makes you grateful to be an actor. If you're an actor and you've never been a model, acting probably seems pretty harsh, you know. But actually, maybe you're like, this is a breeze. Try modeling when you're a teenage girl.
I definitely, and I think it's been noticed actually before by people. You know, I think we have people give models such a really hard time, but you know, you work really, really hard and there's no protections. And when you go into acting, it's such a different thing. Like, first of all, you're asked your opinion all the time about everything. You're like, wait, what? You want to know what I think? Like, or what I feel about this? But it's also like, you have structure. You know when your day is going to start and when it's going to end, and you know when your paycheck's going to come, and you know how much that paycheck's going to be. And there's a contract, and you have your own lawyer who discusses things with you and breaks everything down. Or when I see young actors who are like 18 and 19 and they're so self-possessed and like so mature and handling their own business, and I really like, I feel so like, oh my God, that took me to my mid-30s to become like that. You know, I definitely feel I had a very arrested development for quite a long time.
What is the thanks that got away?
Well, the thanks that got away, so I'll say it's this amazing woman, and I don't know why it's gotten away, because all I could really do is just send her an email, but I'm so bloody bad at that.
This evening.
I'll do it. I will do it. It's this amazing woman, Judith Weston, who I studied with in LA. And she just turned everything around in my head, I guess.
Okay.
You know, I had moved to LA. I'd sort of hit a point in my life where I was like, that's it. If I don't try now, it's never going to happen, and I'll regret this for the rest of my life. And I moved to LA, and I knew one person, and I'd read about a different acting coach in an article in a paper, and it was just basically like I had no idea what I was doing. And so I'd found myself when I first got there in sort of these very typical LA acting classes, which are slightly terrifying.
So what are they like? Because have no idea of what that would feel like. Or
Well, some of them, the one that I ended up in wasn't actually bad at all. Like I learned a lot from it. But the one thing about it is that it's all a bunch of out of work actors who have no idea how they're going to get their foot in the door. And so there is this sort of like carpet of desperation. Like,
I was going to say an air of desperation, then I was like, no, that's too harsh.
no,
Okay.
it's true.
Yeah.
It's there.
Which is, I imagine, quite like
It's horrible, and but it's also,
suffocating
it feels
almost.
a little bit futile. Like you're going to these classes, and this is before I had management or an agent or anything. So it's not like there's any real life application of anything you're learning. And I suppose it's all supposed to prepare you if you ever get a job, but it doesn't. So you're just doing these like random scenes from things, and and it's just like it was kind of, I sort of felt like it was good in the sense that I did feel like I needed to sort of lose a lot of bad habits and mental shit from my years as a model, and it was good to have that time to sort of like peel away all of that stuff and discover my love of acting again. But it also wasn't really helpful in terms of like, how do you actually go get a job? And so I came across this woman's class, and it was just this amazing workshop, and she had this great space that she had created where it wasn't just an acting class. She had directors, writers, special effects people, anyone who wanted to be a director and anyone who wanted to be an actor. And she would get them all together, and she made anybody who was going to direct act, and then she would have us work in workshops with them. And so it was all people who were already working in the industry or were about to. And it felt like, oh, so this is kind of what it would be like on a job. And then you're meeting people who you think usually you would have up on this pedestal.
Okay.
And they're in a learning environment as well. So it just demystified the whole thing. And I made so many amazing connections in that class. But it was also Judith and her approach to things, and how because I think, there's a thing of having had been a model and then going to LA and you wanted to be an actor, everyone that I did come in contact with sort of tried to push me into these like Dolly Bird roles.
The hot girl role.
The hot girl role.
Yeah.
Which there are so many women who are so much hotter innately than I could ever be after 17 hours in hair and makeup. There's women who just walk in and have that thing, and I'm just not that, and Judith was very much like, I remember she took me aside quite early on. She was like, you're going to get the smart brunette girl roles. You just have to work, and you just have to. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was the first time, I think, she just really, just sort of gave me a belief in myself and that I could do it, and pushed me to choose really interesting material and to choose things that allowed myself to think I could do. I knew what I wanted to be doing, but I just didn't really have the confidence or the self-belief that I could. I suppose that's it. And she sort of gave me that. And just her approach to acting was very... like, it was very much about, there's so many different schools, and I think sometimes it can get so wanky and, like...
Yeah.
But she just had a really work-based, but also psychology-based, without it being, I don't know, too faffy. I don't know, it was just very solid.
Yeah. What is your big thank you? And this is kind of like an inverted, maybe not inverted trust, but somebody who had, faith in you.
Well, I don't know. My big thank you, I sort of was like, I thought about this, and this is one of the things I emailed back about.
I know.
Because I was going to say a work thing. And then I was like, honestly, the thing that has gotten me through all of my, especially the last 15, 20 years of my life, which has been very sort of chaotic in a way, has been my girlfriends. And I would be so lost without them. And I feel so grateful that I have so many really amazing ones that mean so much to me, because, you know, I sort of alluded it to it in the email, but I didn't always have that. And when I was growing up in my primary school, it was there was so much bullying going on, and I struggled with that for pretty much the entirety of my primary school.
And when you say there was bullying going on, as in you were being bullied?
Yeah, well, it was sort of like, I mean, I grew up in this tiny place, and there was a very small primary school, and there was only like 9 in my year or something. And stupidly, you know, when you look back on it, you're like, why didn't we just form our own little group? But there was sort of a group of 3 girls who were like the cool girls. And then there was the other 4 of us, and they would sort of take turns on who they would bully. And stupidly, we didn't just gang together. I think there was that thing of needing to feel like you were in a group, or you were
chosen by the
And so when they sort of stop bullying you and decide to pick on someone else, it's one of the things that really, like, I'm like, why? You know. But you know, I think it's as a kid, that kind of like acceptance is pretty tough. But I definitely got quite a bad round of it for quite a few years. And so then, you know, when I sort of went to secondary school, and I made a great group of friends there. But then obviously traveling around the world, you know, I've just been I think it's the thing that's sort of meant the most to me, is like having these amazing girlfriends who through everything are sort of there for you.
And I think it's that kind of, you know, intimacy. I always thought, now it's not a word that's been reintroduced to me, but I always thought of intimacy as like, you know, a sexual thing or a romantic thing. But actually, I think the intimacy of friendships is, and when you get that, and like you say, when you haven't always had that, and you get that with somebody, and that connection, and that trust and understanding, it's like, I think, touching on a soul level, isn't it?
For sure. And it's just that, and I think, you know, we go through so many different phases in our lives, and like there's so much stuff that you have to get through and try and understand. And like what I love about especially my friends is that, you know, you can always call them and be like, look, am I being is this like, am I being a brat about this, or is this like normal, or what? Like, tell me, like, sort out my chatter in my head for me, please. You know, and it's I don't know, I just feel so grateful, and now, you know, we're all going through these very different phases in our lives at the moment. You know, so many of my friends are becoming mothers, and like so many of us have gotten married, or, you know, and it's just amazing to see how we've all grown, and, you know, it's changed from like going out and like who's around and who's cute and all that kind of rubbish. And to now it's like these very kind of very solid and very real big changes in our lives, and it's kind of amazing.
Gift that you are most grateful for?
Oh, well, I just had my birthday recently, so I have been the recipient of this amazing gift from a group of fans who got together, and they raised 50,000 trees. Or basically they donated to this one tree planted. It's this amazing platform. And so they set out trying to get, like, because my birthday's on the 4th of the 10th. So 410 trees was their initial goal. And it just exploded. I know. And so it's like 50,000. But it's amazing. So this one tree planted, they're in so many different countries across the world. And so their whole thing is that they try and plant indigenous trees, because a lot of the time when people are replanting and they replant forests, and this is a big problem in Ireland, is they do these kind of like Douglas firs, or they do one kind of tree, which doesn't really help in terms of keeping the ecosystem and biodiversity and all of that. So they do a lot of work with that, and it's going to be across the world. So it's pretty damn cool. I got a forest.
I also love that the Outlander fans are so conscious.
Oh, they're amazing. I mean, they are amazing. It's pretty, I think with this show, it's very rare that you step into something that's kind of a phenomenon, and it already was. Like, these books existed for, sort of decades before we started our show.
Yeah.
And then it's sort of just grown with the show, and they are so invested and passionate and really conscious. And like, Sam has an amazing charity called My Peak Challenge, and I work with World Child Cancer, and the work and the fundraising that they've done for both of those is just amazing. And it's just, big shout out, a big grateful and shout out to the fans.
Yeah, it's lovely though. And because I remember being at the BAFTAs in Glasgow, and I mean, obviously that's home territory, but I mean, you could literally hear them in cars coming out. It was like, oh, the Outlander gang are here. And I mean, they'd camped outside the hotel for days.
Yeah, it's like, so at the Golden Globes a couple of years ago, they had, there's this whole thing where everybody has to drive up, and it's like everyone's in line. And there was this insane group of Outlander fans who had this massive banner just on the driveway up. And I cannot tell you the amount of times, like, all of these random people would come up to me and be like, oh my God, you're the girl with all those crazy fans. That's amazing. And I'd be like, yeah, I guess. I mean, but it was just so sweet. They're amazing. Honestly, they're really incredible.
Okay, finally, your hashtag blessed moment with a wink.
So hashtag blessed. Well, I recently got to work with Dame Judi Dench, and I can't quite believe it. But yeah, it's one of those things where,
like, mind blown.
Absolutely mind blown. I mean, yeah. I don't even know what to say.
Can you say what it was on?
Oh yeah, so I just finished a film called Belfast, which is written and directed by Kenneth Branagh.
Oh wow!
And it's really beautiful. I don't know how much I can say about the actual film, but I play. It's sort of based on his childhood in Belfast, and I play his mom. The lovely Jamie Dornan plays his dad, and then Dame Judi Dench plays his granny, and Ciarán Hinds plays granddad. And
I also love that he's chosen hot parents. It's like, go on, Kenneth, your parents will be delighted.
Oh, it's very funny. I mean, it was just, the whole thing was just so lovely, but there was one scene in particular where, and Kenneth's amazing to work with. He's just like the loveliest guy. And, we would do a scene, and sometimes he'd just ask you to just do a little improv. And so I'm just sitting there improving with Judi Dench, and it was just like half of your head is sort of in it and you're doing it, and then the other half is there like going, oh my god, I can't believe this is actually happening. This is crazy. Oh my god. So
wow, that is amazing.
It's
amazing.
Yeah,
also,
Ciarán
Hinds. Ciarán Hinds
like,
is
the most darling man, the most amazing actor. Adore him. Yeah.
What a cast. Wow. So when is that out?
I don't know actually. I have no idea.
I mean, who cares?
Who cares?
You can just wallow in the Judi Dench moment for as long as you need to. Well, listen, it's been so gorgeous chatting to you.
It's been so lovely chatting to you.
Yeah, and thanks for taking the time. I know it's busy times. So, yeah, thank you.